Have you ever found yourself staring at your team's online status wondering if they're really working? Not me, because I use Time Doctor, but you are probably not alone. This growing concern has a name, and it's a really weird name. It's called Productivity Paranoia, and it's becoming increasingly common in today's remote and hybrid work environments. Today, we're gonna go into a deep dive into what productivity paranoia is, why it's happening, and the impact it has on team and businesses, and most importantly, how we can hopefully overcome it. So let's start by defining productivity paranoia. This term describes the anxiety that many managers feel when they can't physically observe their team working. It's that nagging fear that employees might not be as productive when they're working from home as they would be in the office. Even though numerous studies have shown that remote employees can be just as productive, if not more productive, the lack of face-to-face interactions can leave managers feeling uneasy. According to a 2022 study by Microsoft, 85% of leaders said that the shift to hybrid work has made it challenging to have confidence in their team's overall productivity. This paranoia really took root during the COVID-19 pandemic when many of us suddenly had to manage teams we couldn't actually see in person. And we lost that daily interaction, the casual check-ins, and for some, it created a sense of disconnection and general distrust. But what's really interesting is that despite these fears, the same Microsoft study found that 87% of employees believe they are just as productive working remotely as they are in the office. So why the disconnect? Well, it all boils down to visibility, or rather the lack of it. When you can't physically see your teams working, it's easy to assume the worst, even if the data tells a different particular story. In conjunction with that, you have to really understand that tools like Time Doctor, as an example, are a perfect protection against that particular problem. And that's why we ended up essentially building this particular tool. Was we had tons of people that were literally watching people's Slack bubbles, or whether or not their Skype light was on and was green. It's just realistically, managers need to be able to spend their time on building the business as opposed to simply just monitoring what employees are doing with their time. So Time Doctor totally solves that in a way that is not only useful to the manager, but then also even more useful to the employee, because you're focusing on outcomes and not necessarily measuring how long someone worked throughout their workday. So how do you break the cycle of productivity paranoia? Well, the key is to shift our focus from activity to outcomes. Instead of micromanaging every single task, we need to trust our teams to deliver results. And the data supports this approach. Companies that focus on outcomes rather than hours worked report higher levels of employee satisfaction and productivity. In fact, a study by Gallup found that organizations with high employee engagement are 21% more profitable than those with low engagement. So how do we actually implement this in a practical way? Well, first, we need to be able to set clear, measurable goals for our team. And when everyone understands what success looks like, it's easier to focus on achieving outcomes rather than worrying about every small task along the way. Second, you need to be able to foster open communication. Regular check-ins should be about support and not necessarily whether or not you did all of these small little details inside of your particular business. So ask your team what they need to succeed rather than just checking that they've actually completed the particular tasks. Again, inside of asynchronous organizations, which we wrote a particular book on, you need to be able to be focused on the outcomes and focus on asynchronous management as opposed to just understanding what people are doing synchronously. That really doesn't work inside of remote teams, and you need to be able to implement more of an asynchronous management philosophy in order to succeed. Third, you need to be able to build a culture of connected trust, but also accountability on both sides. So this might be pretty challenging to be able to do, and it's very alien from a regular in-person office environment, but it's also the most important thing to do. So I believe that accountability is the foundation of any productive remote team. A 2020 survey by the International Association of Business Communicators found that 80% of employees are more likely to stay with a company that prioritizes accountability and transparency throughout the organization. So if you want to keep your team engaged and productive, focus on building that form of accountability inside of your organization. It's not just about giving your employees the benefit of the doubt. It's about creating an environment where they feel empowered to actually do their best work. So as we move further into the era of remote and hybrid work, it's crucial that we redefine what productivity actually looks like. The old model where productivity was measured by the number of hours spent in the office is, in my opinion, completely outdated. In the new world of work productivity, it should be measured by the value and impact of that work being done, not by how many hours are logged online. With a caveat of saying, if you can actually data mine that information and figure out why you're more productive inside of your work, that's a cherry on top that everyone is going to really jump onto and say, wow, this is exactly how we should be building a business. We should be focusing on the people that are doing things the right way, as opposed to focusing on just basically monitoring everybody inside of the company equally for not necessarily anything more than just monitoring them, instead of actually focusing on productivity and asynchronous work and results-driven performance metrics. So this type of philosophy, it's not a small one. More and more companies are realizing that when you give employees the flexibility to work in the way that suits them best, you actually often get better results. And this is especially true for creative and knowledge-based workers, where the quality of output is far more important than the quantity of hours spent at a desk. So as we continue to navigate this new landscape, let's remember that productivity isn't about being constantly available. It's about delivering results and creating value in an organization where you have that form of accountability inside of the organization. And in an environment where managers and business owners and employees can actually come together and work on the goal to basically make the company more money, you will essentially overcome productivity paranoia. It's not just about better management, it's about building stronger, more trusted teams. When we shift our focus to outcomes, support open communication, and build a culture of accountability, we not only improve productivity, but we also create a more positive and sustainable work environment. So let's shift our focus, trust in our teams, and leave the paranoia behind. Your team's productivity and their well-being will thank you for it. So if you like this video, we've got a ton more videos on remote work. I basically do this every single week. So if you're interested, subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the little bell icon. Again, when I ask people that, twice as many people subscribe than when I don't ask that question. And I will hopefully see you in the next one. And or you can click on any of the videos around me, which are also really fun. See you in the next one. Bye.